in this video, this will be the 5th astrological update for cryptocurrency in this series. And we're just going to be looking at the price that we're at right now and continuing on making our predictions. So right now, here's where we're at around $42.3 thousand on Bitcoin. And in these videos, we always track the price of Bitcoin primarily because that's what leads all of the other coins to make price movements as well. So what we know about Bitcoin is the analogy that Bitcoin is like the sun. And if we even look at the logo, which is orange and white, this kind of represents that as well. But Bitcoin is like the sun in the sense that all the other altcoins kind of revolve around its price. And whenever Bitcoin makes a move upwards in price, all the altcoins tend to follow, except they tend to make greater gains. So what we do is we look at the price of Bitcoin and we invest in altcoins. But the same thing happens in the reverse. When Bitcoin's price decreases, the prices of altcoins lose significantly more value in the same direction. So that's basically what we've been experiencing in the first half of April. Now, in the previous update, I made some mistakes in the price predictions, but overall, I'm sticking to my conviction of a rally coming in the second half of April into early May. And this could be a huge rally because astrologically, we're seeing a lot of bullish energy, a lot of optimism, especially financially. So I'll be talking about that next. So here are the predictions from the previous update. And so what we said was April will be an excellent month for cryptocurrencies. And in hindsight, it will actually have appeared to be a good month to realize gains, especially in the second half. And the reason being is because the chart of Venus in Pisces, which Venus just entered Pisces on April 5th. And that chart is showing that it is a good time to balance the excessive optimism and to actually materialize certain gains. Now, the things that we got wrong is the first point was that things will briefly correct during the first half of April, which was correct. But what I got wrong was the price levels, the price target of 49 and 52K, because what we know is that we got rejected around 47K dollars for Bitcoin. Now, after April 5th, we'll still be trending up in the long-term vision. And obviously, we're not between 50 and 56K. Now, I'm still sticking on the prediction that we will experience our second big rally in April after the 15th. And also, last thing, we could experience a peak around April 30th, which is a major eclipse date. So we're going to check that box off if that ends up happening. But if we look, things corrected into early April. Now, the reason I got the price wrong is that it's very hard to predict exact prices with astrology. All I just see is the general vibes. So I just knew things were going to correct or level off in the beginning of April, which is what happened. But what I know is that April is a good month to realize gains in the astrology of this year. And if we look at where we're at right now, does this look like a good time to materialize gains? No. So what this tells me is that the good times have yet to come this month. And what this opportunity is right now is it is a final second chance. It's a brilliant second chance moment that we've had this correction. And what we did was that we actually ended up hitting a price limit earlier this month around 47K. And where we left off in the previous update was we were just at this orange 200 moving average. And we had just touched it. And what I had explained was if we cross this moving average, then we should see continued movement and continued optimism. And that's what led me to believe that we would range around 49 to 50K, because in my mind we would cross it, because at the time of the video we were right here. But we ended up actually hitting a price limit, and this is due to Saturn conjuncting Mars on April 5th. And it was in Aquarius, this conjunction. And to this day they're still conjunct, but they're separating now. And essentially this is a negative conjunction because Mars and Saturn do not get along. Saturn is all about limitations. And if we look at the chart of that time, this is Saturn right here. You guys should start to learn the planets and how they look in the chart if you don't already. But this is Saturn. This is Mars. And Saturn is all about limitations. So what we see was Venus is in Aquarius. And Venus in Aquarius marked, an optimistic time for financial technologies, because Venus is about wealth. It's about finances. It's about money. Aquarius is about technology. And people that put money in March before Venus entered Aquarius made a lot of money in the later half of March, which is what we predicted. And I would watch the previous update where we, covered that. But essentially, Saturn is all about limitations. Venus is our desires or our values. And Mars is our actions or how we acquire things. So what we see is that Saturn is in between Venus and Mars. That means it was like a limiting barrier between us achieving, more financial gains in this sector, at least metaphorically speaking. Like if we draw a barrier right here where Saturn is, let me make it more straight. That was getting in the way of us pushing through. And this was on April 1st, but on April 5th, Mars finally conjuncted Saturn. And that's when the energy was strongest. And we can see that on that date, things just turned red. If we look, if you look at the bottom of the screen, just a little bit above the 1 day indicator, you can see the dates. So this was April 5th when Saturn conjuncted Mars. And this is where we see our correction. And ultimately, this big, simple moving average ended up being the limit that Saturn represented. So I'd actually, previously forecasted that we would hit a limit in April, but I overlooked this in the previous video. And so, though once we've crossed this limit, which we found out what it is, then the sky is the limit after that. And at least to the 60K level, which is the previous all-time high, around that level. Whether we will break beyond 60K in late April to May, early May, or mid-May at the latest, that is still up to see. Like, we still have to see. But we definitely, I feel, will have a large rally in the second half of April. Now, so where we're at is we're at this significant level of 42, around 43K, around that level. This is a significant point, especially around 43K, because 43 is a very special number this year in gematria. Now, what we can see is that this is a significant resistance level. So as I was saying, this is actually a brilliant second chance opportunity if you are in the camp of believing that we are in a second rally for the second half of April. A second, I guess, continuation. And what we see is that where this orange circle is, was where we had a bullish cross between the which moving average, the 18 and the 36, the yellow and the white moving average. And what we discussed is that whenever this happened in the past, you know, this indicated a significant move upward. You know, and this happens fairly infrequently, you know? So we see that we moved up in the second half of March. And so anyways, what I was gonna say next is that essentially right now we're just having a back test of this significant level, which is 42K. And I marked it with this white horizontal line, and we can see that we have a lot of resistance at that level, as well as a lot of like support. So right here we had some support. Right here was a resistance level. Right here was approaching a resistance level. And then right here, all the way back in January of 2021, it was a resistance level. So this is a significant support level that we're actually touching. So to an investor or a speculator, this is significant of safety. You know, this is a safety indicator. So with that being said, this is where we're at. And, you know, 43 is a special number this year. And on my Patreon, you know, soon after I made the previous update, I talked about how with the Saturn and Mars conjunction that we could return to specifically around 43K. And that was using numerology, which is more suited for price predictions than only doing astrology. All I could really tell was the general fact that we're going to have like some sort of pullback, especially after the new moon of April 1st, which you can see with this white line, this white vertical dashed line. That was the date of the new moon. And new moons are peaks. So around a new moon, there's a peak, and then towards the full moon, there's a bottom. Now, what we're seeing is that we are still in a trend upwards, as I was saying, through early April. Anyways, okay. So why 43 was a significant level to retest, especially with manipulation by institutions and powerful people, is that using gematria, which is the practice of encoding letters into numbers and encoding words into numbers. So A in the English ordinal is 1, B is 2, C is 3, on until Z, which is 26. And when you add the numbers together, you get the numerology or the gematria of them. And when we look at Bitcoin, BTC in particular, which is Bitcoin as well as its ticker symbol together, we see it adds to 43. And why I was, you know, considering 43 as like the level that we would retest is because we see that April in the reverse cipher, which is basically when you reverse the order, when you start with Z as 1 and so on, we see that April has 34, which is basically 43 in reverse. And then we see as well March having the 43 in the English ordinal cipher. So, you know, March has a 43. Bitcoin is connected to 43. April is 43 in reverse. So what I was feeling is that in the transition between March and April, we would hit a level of around 43K. And that's what I mentioned in my Patreon post subsequently to the previous update that I made for YouTube. So with that being said, we also see so much connection to 43 in the external world and in the world of sports even, which is scripted. So let me pull that up real quick. So one of these examples of 43 was with the Super Bowl of this year, Super Bowl 56. The final score was 23-20. When you add the final score together, it was a 43. And we also saw earlier on this month, on April 4th, we saw the Kansas Jayhawks win the March Madness tournament here in the United States with a 34-6 record. Before the game it was 33-6 losses, and Carolina had 29-9. But with so much connections with April and 43, and March also being connected to 34 and 43, I bet on the Kansas Jayhawks winning with this 34 record if they won. So I actually bet some money and won with that. But also, you know, there was a lot of other connections, such as the fact that there was a connection between the stadium that they were playing in and Kansas. When you put the gematria in, they had the exact same gematria. So there was like a lot of connections leading me to believe Kansas would win. And also there's so much like connections to 34 this year. You know, next we have Ukraine being a huge topic of this year. And we see the 34. Now, you could believe these are just coincidence, but essentially there's just a lot of important things happening around 34 and 40, which is 43 in reverse. Like these two numbers, 34 and 43, which are mirrors. Now we also see that we are in Aries season at this time. The sun is in Aries. Sun in Aries, or basically Aries sun equals 34. And right now we're in the season of Aries sun. So there's just a lot of connections to 34 at this point in time. So, and in addition, with this being such a significant level of resistance to, or a support level, that's what led me to believe that 43 was really the most significant like level that we could really retest with this Saturn and Mars conjunction. So the next point is that March and April have similar gematria. They have the 43 and 29. So bear with me as I try to highlight this. When numbers are reversed in gematria, they're just mirrors, so they're connected. So we see April has 34, March has 43. They both have the 29. And so essentially, March and April often have the same energy, and they kind of mirror each other or continue off of each other. So whatever happened in March, April will follow in the same manner, pattern-wise. And what we saw was in March that as soon as the second half of March, we would have a rally. And sure enough, we did. Let's see. Let's look at the actual charts and try to recall. So we went from lows in early March of 37K to 38K all the way to 48K. So that's what we talked about last time, how if somebody had taken my prediction and bought a Bitcoin exactly at the middle of March, in the second half, they would have made $10,000. Now, what we're going to see is a similar pattern as I was predicting, which is that in the first half, things may correct or even be stagnant. And in the second half of this month of April, we will see the same type of energy as what happened in the second half of March, which is a rally. So with that being said, let me hide these indicators and show you guys an example of how this happens also in previous years, because March and April are energetically connected when it comes to the gematria, the numerology of them. So let me hide these indicators or these drawings. We can see, okay, in March of 2021, there was a rally early into March. Around the 14th, there was a shift in trajectory. It went back down. And then we kind of, see a second increase into April. So when we look into April of 2021, there was a rally at the beginning, a decrease into the second half of April, and then... So I was cut off by a call, but essentially we saw an increase into the end of the month, just like with March. So April and March mirror each other. We're going to continue by talking about what could be the next possible moves and do our predictions as usual at the end of each update, basically. And that should be interesting. But if we look as well, I've drawn a parallel channel. And this is interesting to look at because we can see that with Bitcoin ever since 2000 and basically late 2020, we've been in this parallel channel. And we can see that right now we're generally speaking like around kind of the bottom half of this channel. And this kind of corresponds with this idea that since we're moving up at this time, especially if there is a second rally, which we believe that there will be in late April, and this pushes up, which Bitcoin usually can push up in very straight lines. When it does, it's not a slow moving asset in price terms. When it moves up quick. This really corresponds with this idea of us being able to move up to previous all-time highs and likely even a little bit beyond. And where I'm thinking is 74K. And this is all connected to Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday, which was on the 5th of April. And this is his 47th birthday. I believe Satoshi is a fictional character because nobody knows who he is. So the fact that he has a birthday on the internet could just be a fabrication by, secret societies, or like it could just be a hint basically, or something that they encode prices with. And if you guys know how, things get encoded in this world and how we kind of live in a matrix with, secret societies controlling, different world events and correlating it to different numbers, you guys understand this idea of things being encoded. So it's likely Satoshi Nakamoto is just, his birthday is just something to encode or connect things to Bitcoin. So with him turning 47, this is just a code for 47, which was the limit that we hit. Around that point, we actually went a little bit above to 48K. And then, on the date of the Saturn conjunction, we went exactly to around 47K. But also, this could be the next all-time high. And Bitcoin and gematria has some connections to 72 as well. I'm not sure if it's Bitcoin or BTC, but okay, yeah, we see Bitcoin is 72 in English ordinal. So somewhere around 72K is like a really kind of reaching top levels. So maybe we top out even a little bit before 74K if we have a large rally through May and through late April. But anyways, as I was saying, so at this moment we're in this parallel channel, and we can see that we're at relatively low levels of this channel. Now, we're going to finish off this video with the predictions and where we're going to move next. So what I believe is that when Mars enters Pisces and it leaves this conjunction with Saturn in Aquarius, this is when we're going to leave this resistance in price, which is on the 15th of April. And that's also the date of a full moon. And we know that full moons correlate with price bottoms. Every time there's a full moon, it kind of just correlates to a micro cycle bottom. And they kind of drag down the price. The new moons, which are the black dots, they correspond with tops. So on the same date that we're having Mars enter Pisces, this is also going to be a full moon level. So from that point forward, I see us moving forward and moving beyond any limitations, which was indicated by Saturn when they were in Aquarius together. That was the conjunction, and this was a screenshot from April 1st, but this conjunction continued, up to this day right now even. So until Mars enters, this sign right here, Pisces, we're going to continue seeing this resistance in Aquarius with our objectives in price, because all of this is right now connected to finances and financial technologies. And we talked about that in the previous video on how the astrology is so connected to wealth and to like technology, to the internet especially. So this is all connecting to cryptocurrencies. So with that being said, then we're going to be moving after that day, after the 15th, we're going to be moving into a partial solar eclipse on the 30th of April. And this is a heightened or more significant new moon. And new moons are tops, and they drag the price up. So again, this is correlating with this idea of an exaggerated spike in price or a rally. And around that time, I'm predicting that would be some sort of peak and a good place to de-risk, generally speaking, when it comes to Bitcoin. Because we know that when prices get high, that's when you want to start to realize gains, to take profits. Now, on that same exact date, we have a conjunction with Jupiter and Venus. So again, Jupiter expands things. Venus is about wealth, finances, and resources. So we're going to see a lot of optimism and a lot of financial excitement, especially in the realm of cryptocurrencies. So I just briefly wanted to pull up a chart of this lunar eclipse. This solar eclipse on April 30th. And we can see that the ascendant, or the constellation that's rising at the exact time of this conjunction, is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is all about expansion. It's all about excitement, abundance, optimism. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, and we see that Jupiter is directly conjuncting Venus, who is exalted in Pisces. Exalted is the highest expression of a sign. So the highest expression of love, money, and wealth. So that's the theme of that. And Venus is kind of hidden behind this vertex sign right here in the chart, but Jupiter is conjunct to Venus. So this is going to create an expansion in people's wealth or finances. And this new moon is happening where? It's happening in Taurus. Taurus is the sign of Venus. Taurus is about wealth, resources, and finances. And we see that this new moon, or this solar eclipse in this case, because it's close to the north node, is conjunct to Uranus. Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius, and it's all about innovation, technology, and progress. So during this time, this excitement is related to the theme of financial technology, innovations, or excitement. So this is what's, this is what we've been talking about in these astrological updates. This is what we've been kind of building to, and this is what our predictions are kind of facilitated by, is this idea or this knowledge that we know a lot of optimism is ahead of us astrologically when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So with that being said, after this point of April 30th, on the 2nd of May, which is around this date right here, or this period right here, where I'll put a vertical line for us to visually see, Venus will be entering Aries, which is its sign of debilitation. So around May 2nd, Venus becomes debilitated. And this is what we're going to be talking about next. And this is where we could possibly see a turnaround in energy. And this also strengthens my hypothesis that around April 30th and, at the beginning of May, that's when we're going to see some sort of peak in price or some sort of limit being hit. And it's going to be a good time to balance our optimism, especially with the chart that we saw of Venus being in not Aquarius, but Pisces, which I believe this is the chart. Yeah. So Venus in Pisces, it entered on April 5th. And the sign that's rising is Virgo, which is all about being realistic. It's all about being practical, and it's all about realizing our goals. It's all about checking things off. So astrology is giving us this hint that while Venus is in Pisces, it's going to show a good time to materialize some sort of financial goals and to balance our optimism, because why? Venus is landing in the 7th house, which is all about balance, and it's in the sign Pisces, which is all about ideals and optimism, especially when Jupiter, the planet of optimism, is in Pisces. So I hope that wasn't too confusing or scattered, but all these kind of ideas are kind of correlating into one theme, which is that we should see a rally in the second half of April. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I appreciate you guys watching and supporting in any way that you do. And I will talk to you guys sometime soon in another video or post on my Patreon. And yeah, peace.